build upon the idea of inherent qualities and experiences dependent upon the sections of society in which one inhibits. A societal issue in which his theories can provide insight towards is that of queer identity and separation from the mainstream. To analyze this, three overarching ideas can be used: social capital, habitus, and symbolic violence. To firstly describe the initial outlier nature of queerness, habitus and symbolic violence must be explained. Habitus is the way in which one will act or think based upon their status in the society, unless questioned, while symbolic violence is the oppressive power of the mainstream habitus to variation. Bourdieu describes symbolic violence nature as that invisible power which can be exercised only with the complicity of those who do not want to know that they are subject to it, or even that they themselves exercise it. This plays a substantial part in the separation between mainstream heteronormative society and queer culture through the lack of ability to inhabit the same habitus in certain facets of one's lives. Subsequently, symbolic violence has taken root. Within the current Australian culture, purely symbolic violence is seen most notably in internalized homophobia within the queer individual and assimilation politic. Internalized homophobia particularly shows the impact of symbolic violence as it is the individual creating and blaming themselves for any discrimination that occurs. In mainstream media and within heterosexual social circles, an assimilationist viewpoint towards queer equality is often the only narrative available, with studies suggesting that there is an acceptance of homosexuality solely within a normalizing frame. This is an example of symbolic violence through the passive and unknowing denial of acceptance of a different habitus, as it is suggesting that for an end to persecution, one must join the mainstream habitus. Cultural capital also plays a role. Cultural capital is the status coming from the ways that we act and our interests and our thoughts. Inevitably, cultural capital will be lost through the lack of participation or ability to participate in heteronormative activities that are associated with higher cultural capital such as participation in a nuclear family. This combined with symbolic violence has resulted in a marked impact upon queer people's ability to gain economic and social capital, as shown through increased poverty and youth homelessness, and a reduced section of the population willing to network with a queer individual. Intersectionality must also be incorporated into this. People in the queer community are more likely to be in positions of power or in the media and will also maintain more cultural capital the more they fall into the white, middle to upper class, and male-oriented mainstream habitus. From this, however, comes the creation of a queer identity. As a result of discrimination, a subcultural habitus has arisen in queer communities as a result of the tendency towards the creation of chosen family. In addition, a different frame of cultural capital can be used within queer communities. For example, having linguistic cultural capital within certain queer communities displays a movement towards using words like folks, NB, or acclaimed slurs as both self-descriptors and in the general vernacular, or otherwise, transgressive social capital in the celebration of lack of heteronormity within queer actions. To compare Bourdieusian analysis to other sociologists, a common theme of deviation from the norm can be observed. For example, according to Linton, queer culture, while a real cultural pattern, is removed from the ideal cultural pattern. According to Merton's strain theory, queer relationships don't follow the institutionalized means to the same cultural goal of having a long-term relationship, or may deviate further by not having the same cultural goals, for example in arrow-ace attractions. In a similar vein, Becker would cite being queer as a deviant behavior, as established by the dominant group in the society. However, with the difference of deviant groups become a normal via a moral crusader rather than an inherent difference between the majority and minority groups in the society.